gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. I hope you're keeping well and you enjoyed the time away from us to enrich your souls with something a little bit more clear and something a little bit more warm than currently living on this earth is giving us. On today's agenda, we thought we'd take a little look at one of the many aspects that we're losing as part of our human interaction, and that's simply, well, not simply really. I can simply put it, but it's not a simple thing. It is our capacity to think. It is our capacity for rational discussions. And one of the things that well, I've been calling it the reasoning funnel, but we'll get into in a few minutes. And one of the reasons for it is why humans are so quick to judgments, or quick to solutions, or quick to hypotheses, answers, whatever you want to call it, in the face of very complex things, very complex ideas. We rely, as human beings, heavily on heuristics and steps and concepts and modes of thinking to try and make sense of certain things. And yet, in the face of challenge, or the face of uncertainty or ambiguity, we seem to jump to a simple little pigeonhole to pop this idea in, regardless of whether it's the most applicable one for it or not. We hear a lot about this discussion between type 1 and type 2 thinking. What do you make of it, Bob, in terms of why humans have such a propensity for jumping to simple answers rather than the exploration of potential ambiguity, the grey area, if you will?
I think it's because we like simplicity. Our brains are quite lazy things, really, and we look for patterns where they're not there, but we also try to. We don't like the unknown, and so when we try to see things in a simplistic light to make sense of them, um, and it's used to be called system one thinking. I think that's a bit outdated now, but it is an emotional response to something. We either like it or we don't like it. And we don't like uncertainty. We like certainty. And so and especially now, I think now it's a lot of cognitive offloading, isn't it? We will believe what we see online, and that's a byproduct of this, isn't it? We
It
don't
is.
apply the reasoning. What we used
Yeah.
to well, what I call the ABCs, that we
Yeah.
don't do that. The OODA loop, etc., is an extension of that, but it's assume nothing, believe nothing blindly, and challenge every doubt you have. But we don't do that. We're very much in the frame of mind where it's there, and unless there's something really obvious that's telling us not to go with it, we'll go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's sad when you think about it. Outside of the unpleasantness, there is a neuroscientist from MIT. I like reading her stuff. Sherry Turkle, who spoke about the the priority for speed, for efficiency, for go 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 now now now,
Mm.
risks depth.
Yeah.
And I won't speak for you. I'm only going to speak for myself. I know that when I have a quick element, a quick discussion, a quick thought, a quick idea, a quick interaction, it's never truly going to be as explored as it could be if I spend time with it. And
Mm.
again, that's one of the things that you point out about the current society that we live in. We're a march towards I need this yesterday, I need this yesterday,
Yeah.
when the complex ideas we're all facing on a daily basis can't be solved that quickly,
No.
or at least very likely
Mm.
can't be solved that quickly. So this is why the first step in the reasoning funnel itself essentially is observation.
Yeah.
It's not even to start thinking about what it means at that particular moment. Attention can be selective, so if you are selectively attending to certain things, you're more predisposed to cognitive bias. Just take in the data, take in as much as you can in whatever context it is that you're dealing with. Don't be in such a rush from the
Mm.
start, you know?
An interesting point on that is something was on LinkedIn this week, and I think I was abroad this week, so I don't know whether it was on the news or anything, but there's a very short video I saw on LinkedIn with some young children, sort of maybe 12, 13 year olds, about three of them, and they're surrounded by five coppers, and it's
Right.
supposedly something to do with flying the Union Jack or something.
Yes. Yes.
But I saw it and someone put it on there, and then we had all the people getting on their moral high horses saying, "Oh, this is terrible." Funny enough, I realised later the guy that I was in quite a heated discussion with wasn't even from the UK, he was from Australia. Although he said he was British going back, but yeah, so what? And all I put on there was, well, this is great. We can just work with that. But that didn't work for the Manchester airport incident where it turned
Right.
out it wasn't the police attacking some Asian people, I think it was, or some
Mm,
of Eastern sort of people. It was the other way round, but it
yeah.
was and this is the thing, without applying reasoning, the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, what's the context here? Where is this? And, is there, and what's the what can it be the reason? What is going on?
Mm,
And people don't apply that. We're so
yeah.
quick to jump in. And the internet makes it easier because we can do that. We can go there and, it doesn't matter because it's disposable, isn't it? If we're wrong, we're
That's the
wrong. It
thing.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
But
the thing.
when you are involved in anything, especially behavioral analysis, a lot of the time you are impacting on someone in some way,
Mm,
in either a minor or a major way.
mm,
If you're doing event security, they're not going to get into the event that they may have paid for, etc., etc. And so we really do have a duty to actually think about, well, I think that, but why do I think that?
mm.
And
Yeah,
go through some steps to make sure that because we've all got the capacity to be wrong.
of course.
Sometimes you don't think that people think that when they give these absolutes on LinkedIn or on the internet, but it isn't. We can be wrong, and we often are wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's been framed in the earlier part of working and exploring this kind of material, uh, that being wrong is something to be afraid of.
No,
It's not something to aspire to, sure, but
no.
who does? But being afraid of it, it's a different thing altogether, you know. And again, that fear of being wrong is
Mm,
something that will push the proverbial you. Will push one, to use my
mm,
my very upper class English language,
mm.
to push one towards more of a cognitive bias, right? To cling to
Yeah,
those beliefs that you already had, and
yeah.
it's the quote from this guy that keeps popping up is it's a capital mistake to theorize before one has data. Insensibly, one begins to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. And
Yeah.
that was I saw the video, I saw the post, I saw the discussion that you guys were having, and some of the comments were like, "Look at the young girls; they look terrified." And if you listen to it, they're clearly not terrified. They might be a
No.
little unsettled by the police,
Yeah.
sure, as most people who haven't had an interaction with the police would be,
Mm,
right? But terrified is that emotively driven
yeah.
description that colors opinions, that incenses biases, and affects your ability to reason in that
Mm,
situation. That was one of the things I was talking about in some of my posts earlier. The notion of being reasonable. It is
yes.
it's a term that I've seen scattered around for months, particularly over the last couple of days, and the one thing that um, I believe understanding the ability to reason and therefore be reasonable helps with is
Mm.
the connection towards fairness,
Yeah.
right? And people might scoff or roll their eyes about fairness, but all that basically is can you be reasonable if you haven't
Yeah.
taken stock of all points of view or all data or
Mm.
whatever else? You can't. You can't be reasonable in that situation if you are either actively disregarding opinion or
Yeah.
not making yourself aware of it, which is why observation is such an important part such an important part of it. I mean, then we move from there to framing and the orientation of those
Mm.
decisions therein. Sorry, I'm just getting uncomfortable. I think one of the pins has come loose in my arms. It's poking me.
Mm.
Orientation is the context, right? That's
Yeah.
the context of the situation. As you said, you watched the video, observed. What's the context? That's the next step. What's the
Mm.
frame for the situation that you're in? So the data points that you're collecting, they actually mean something, right?
Yeah.
So you take that video. It was what, maybe 30 seconds. I didn't
Mm.
watch the whole thing, but it was about give or take that kind
Yeah.
of length. The
Yeah.
the video started where the police were already talking to the young people there. So the context is already affected because you don't know what
Yeah.
happened before, you don't know
No.
what happened after, and that's
No.
very important to understand what it is.
Yeah.
So how do you in your interactions, how do you go about understanding the context that you're in to make sure that the information you're observing is framed correctly?
Well, a lot of it is to do with the environment and the type of conversation you're having, understanding um, depending on the context of the situation, will drive you to what type of conversation you're in and the expected behavior of the other person back to you. And then it's about trying to align with that person in because if you're the originator of that conversation, then the onus is on you to try and make it a pleasant experience for the person you're with. And so the reasoning part of that would be, well, why are they behaving like this? Are they in the right type of conversation? Are they getting what they want from me? Am I projecting to them how they
Mm,
want me to project to them?
mm,
So I would call it the environment and the alignment within the environment. And from doing the work that we both do, we all know um, that you can get rapport eventually. You maybe get empathy, but what you will get is that moment when there is a commonality of perception. So cognitive alignment,
yeah.
neural coupling, if you want to call it that,
Yes.
where you both understand the position of the other person and you're having an adult to adult conversation.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that baffles me the older I get. The more it seems to be that people adopt the I disagree with you, therefore I don't like you, which is not the
Yeah,
case
no.
in most average everyday interactions.
Mm.
In most adult interactions, it's more I disagree with you. Let's talk
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
It doesn't come with that kind of a stigma or attachments in those
yeah.
situations, which is why we move to hypothesis formation
Mm.
after those particular elements for the more dorkier of our viewership. This would be Bayesian reasoning.
Mm.
For those people who enjoy Bayes' theorem and coming up with probabilities of situations and causalities happening, there is a mathematical equation that's applied. But all we are in reality doing is based on all of the available information. What is most likely?
Yeah,
That's really all we're looking at in those situations. And there might be a number there might be a number of elements that are most likely, which is why your ability to hold multiple ideas in your working
mm,
memory is such an important part for somebody who's capable of being reasonable, somebody who's capable of
yeah,
reasoning, to hold multiple
mm,
ideas without it stepping into anything of a cognitive dissonance kind of flavor. It's just
mm,
these are possibilities that could happen. Let's find out
yeah,
if that's the case via exploring it. And it's it's Jim's validate, dismiss, clarify. It is
yeah,
the exploration of all data points that
mm,
have then been framed properly to then see if it properly connects towards the
sure,
situation. Like those girls. I forget if there were any young lads there. I only saw a couple of girls, but those girls that were talking to the police in that video. I'm thinking about, okay, what do I know terrified to be? What do I know
mm,
terrified to be? How much
mm,
of that connects with what I saw? Hostile. What do I know of hostile outside of any
yeah,
opinions of hostile? What do I know hostile to be?
yeah,
Does any of that bear relevance to that? Do I know any antecedents? Do I know the fallout of the video? All of
mm,
this is some of the elements that is really going to encourage the well reasoned
yeah.
exploration of the data points that are in there.
Yeah. I think the
You know?
thing about that video as well is that you only get a perspective because the video is only showing the
Yeah,
people standing there and the police talking to them. We
yeah,
don't know the context. We don't know who's standing over the road, whether it's a mob that if they do raise this flag, it's going to cause problems and the police
yeah,
just don't want there to be problems. We just don't know. And if you take it to, say, investigative practice and that, we're talking about hypotheses, aren't we?
we
The
are.
different hypotheses, and that we're, and take it to yet another field, Elizabeth Stokoe,
Yeah,
um,
great book.
with the talk, and
Talk.
and we're looking at you know, the roadmap. And I always think that conversations and engagements of anything is like a roadmap, and you may go down some wrong turnings,
Yeah, of course.
but you need to go down them to know the way where you're going. And
Mm.
so, having hypotheses and thinking, well, does this mean this or does it mean that? And I can remember clearly working with new joiners to the police service and teaching them to investigate and saying to them, right, you're going to speak to this guy. What are the hypotheses? What could have happened here? And then you always have to remind them at the end, or it could be that he's not done anything
Yeah,
because they always leave that one out because they think they're there to prove, not
yeah,
prove or disprove.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crackers, and I mean, after that stage, we moved to deductive filtering. Um,
Yeah.
Herbert Simon coined the phrase bounded rationality in the late 50s, I want to say. I'll need fact checking on the date if anyone cares about the date, but
Mm,
that's that's where I think it was from. It's basically in reference to human beings, though we're capable of processing a lot, we can't hold infinite
mm,
of information. So these need to be explored. So when we are filtering all of these hypotheses that we've created, it's done through deductive filtering, excuse me, because deduction is about cause and effect. It's about certainty. It's
mm,
about certitude. Whereas if you're looking for induction and abduction and those other terminologies, there's a possibility for variance and a possibility for likelihood. If we can deductively filter down as much as possible,
mm,
that's like the scientific method, in that if you have a theory, a hypothesis, whatever it is, you don't look for information that confirms it. You look for
yeah.
information that disproves it, because
Yeah.
the disproving thereby proves the theory. So if you have a deductive filtering that only accounts for certitude, that only accounts for likelihoods, there is two very different chains of exploration that go on there. Deductive filtering is how we as human beings what's the best word? Conserve cognitive
mm,
resources. You know,
mm,
those are the situations that much like in your experience, there is there is an element of certainty that this eponymous person that's being interviewed couldn't have done anything.
mm,
So
mm,
that needs to be included in the filtering process because it's a pertinence is verifiable. You know, and
mm,
those are the real struggling properties. And already, what I just like to point out is to anyone listening, look at how many steps we've gone over of
mm,
exploring. We've not, we've not really worked any particular example, but if you go through these steps, the likelihood of your ability to jump to a conclusion diminishes because
mm.
you're exploring it with reason. You're
Yeah.
exploring it with rationale, and you know that there may be elements that you don't necessarily like, and that's okay. That's life. You know, there may be elements that agree with you, and that's okay.
Mm,
That's life. But all we're doing as part of these kind of mini investigations that we carry out for our ability to reason is to come at whatever the closest version to the truth is.
mm.
That's it. The
Yeah.
truth is it doesn't take stock of opinion. The truth is the truth. How you feel
Yes.
about the truth is, I'm gonna destroy the quote, but there's a stoic quote that I like that it's not our it's not things that we have fearful feelings in relation to. It's our feelings about them in that
Yeah.
situation. So the truth is just the truth. Our opinions and feelings around it will change, of
Yeah.
course, but those situations, and it's yeah, I've been talking for far too long on that situation. It was a mini high horse I climbed the top of.
Mm.
What do you make of humans' ability to decipher relevance in that scenario? Because humans are, in my opinion, synonymous with just having a terrible capability of determining
Yeah.
relevance in a scenario. How do you tackle that? How do you handle that?
Well, I suppose if you're the person with them and you can see that that's going on, and that's the hard bit, is seeing, and making sense of what they're going through,
Mm,
then you can reason with them because that's what we say, we reason with people. But from a professional perspective, when we're acting in the role of evaluating someone's behavior, um, it's not that it takes long. I think
mm,
5 minutes maybe to
mm,
get an idea of that person's behavioral repertoire on that day, and to get and to look for repetitive behaviors that will give you some idea of how that person is feeling that day. And where they want to place themselves within that environment. And then, if you take into the context of what you're doing and all that type of thing with it, then you can get near to be making reasonable decisions about, so the person you've tried a couple of times to engage them in small talk and they just don't want to know, either verbally or non-verbally, then you can say, oh, well, that this person just wants to get to the end of this conversation. What does he want from it, and how can I achieve that? And
yeah.
using reasoning, you can get there.
Mm,
Or this person just wants to talk and he wants someone to listen to him. He
mm,
might not know that he wants someone to listen to him, but he does. So
yeah.
then you you allow them to take over, and be able to, because people, no matter what the situation and the level of what people share with you, gives you an indication of what type of conversation they want to have.
100%.
Because people will only share what they care about at that time. And if they're not sharing very much, then they don't really want to be involved in a conversation of sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
And reasoning is the mechanisms behind looking at that behavior, understanding that behavior, and then making reasonable decisions about how to then take it forward.
Precisely. Love that. Love that. Yeah. From I mean, it highlights again and I would say this because I've been working on it, so I'm kind of biased, but
Hmm.
it highlights the importance of these steps in your ability to reason. Like once you've deductively filtered down your options, you go into evidence testing. So like you were saying in those examples, so I've got these three, let's say, deductively filtered hypotheses that it could be. How am I going to test it? How am I going
Yeah.
to test to see that? It forces you to critique your own answers.
Hmm.
Even in those moments, you are checking to go, what could disprove what I have in front of me? How can I interact with this person to see, not to push
Hmm.
or lead in questions
Yeah.
or any of that type of thing? How can I test it? And it's like I think it's called signal detection theory. I think it's
Yeah.
a fairly unimaginative name, but it's about the balance of false negatives and false positives
Yeah.
in terms of the evidence testing around that. It's such an important step to take before you then move on to revising what it is that testing then shows you. That then gives you a conclusion, which might still not be perfect in
Hmm.
those particular situations. And then the thing that we do as part of the funnel is, I mean, I called it reporting, but that depends on if you're writing remote assessments or paperwork and
Yeah.
passing these details on. But in communication, if I can talk to you about the well reasoned opinion I have that, I don't know, there is a unicorn that lives on top of the mountain, right? Regardless of whether or not you agree with me, if you can understand the steps that I've taken to get there, if they logically make sense, it is a reasoned opinion that you can work with, that you can understand, and that's the importance of reporting in that step. That thought, granted, in that example, it's based in nonsensical stuff, but that thought has has clarity to it,
Yeah.
and that's
Hmm.
such an important thing to nurture in the way that we communicate with one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And so, with all we're saying with this, and granted, this is just a method for reasoning.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just a method, right?
Hmm.
There are many. There are many.
Hmm.
We've cited many other ones that you could look at as well, but it's the active use of them, so much
Yeah.
so that it becomes a part of how you think. So skipping the funnel, the OODA loop, the ABCs, the VDCs, anything else that we've spoken about, skipping that is going to lead to, in some form, emotive irrationality. And I think we can all agree, as a race, emotive irrationality is the new pandemic.
It is.
It's
Yeah.
it's
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 true.
it's it's the new pandemic. It is, neuroscientifically speaking, it is a complete reduction in prefrontal cortex activity and moving forward primarily from whatever your amygdala tells you to do. And
Hmm.
that by definition alone is not reasonable. It's
Hmm.
it's not well reasoned. So whether you guys take steps to use this step by step method that we've gone through, or you want to look into the OODA loop, or you want to look into the ABCs that Bob mentioned earlier, or the VDCs, starting to sound like a reasoning based Sesame Street over here, then
Hmm.
consider subscribing to the podcast if you haven't already. And you can find all of the links that are connected to our material on this topic in the description box below. But before we leave, Bob, any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Um, Reasoning is really important, but there's something that underpins it, which is even more important. And that is when you're involved with people and you're trying to get to a position where you can reason and make decisions, be Alf. Always look and listen first, because that is the only way that you'll be able to get to the position where you can make good decisions. Don't be afraid to be wrong. be a bit of a chameleon in your conversations. Don't, if something isn't working, then it might be you. Just move a little bit. And be open-minded as much as you can. Reasoning works best when you've got no biases.
Absolutely. I don't want to add anything to that, guys. That's a wonderful note to leave us on. So, welcome back to the festivities, and we'll see you again next week. All right, guys, take it easy.